Welcome to a double
and
dice
with your host Kim.
and Jocelyn.
Pour your favorite beverage,
Pull up a comfy chair.
because we are ready to roll.
Welcome to episode 39 of a double and dice. And today we're starting a new series for our podcast.
Not a team building series.
No, not a team building series. We've done that. We couldn't extend it. Sorry, Jocelyn.
I want to redo it all over again. So I like talking about team building, and I'm not very good at building teams. So
Yes, you are.
and details.
Everybody's different. But yes, we're starting a new series, and we're going to be focusing on female characters in Dice Masters. And that's not players who play Dice Masters who are female, but female cards or characters in Dice Masters. And
That's right.
Today, we're going to start off with someone who's pretty, not very common, I guess, right? She's not really out there too much.
Yeah, I mean, out there in like the comics world, out there in the movies, out there
Yep.
in
Dice
the
Masters.
Dice Masters meta.
Maybe she's a little underrated. I don't know. We'll find out. But we're going to talk about Shethor today.
Well, I don't think they call her Shethor.
No, they call her Thor, but
Yes.
the female version to Thor.
Yeah. So first off, we're going to preface this by saying that Kim and I do not have a lot of comics knowledge. I think we've talked about that in the past, but we are pretty good at research. So
Google is our friend.
we have looked up some context. We may be incorrect, or if we say something wrong, I'm sure that someone out there will let us know. But we're just sort of, I think what we're going to do is we're going to give like an overview of the character. We'll talk about the sets in which she has appeared, and where, is there anything notable and that kind of stuff about her in Dice Masters, right?
Right.
Cool. So, Kim, shall I kick us off?
Yeah, kick us off. Who is Thor, aka Shethor?
So, the female version of Thor is primarily Jane Foster, which, if you have no context of Marvel comics, you'll know from the movies. Maybe if you've watched the movies, Jane Foster is a doctor. She was a nurse and became a doctor. It was played by Natalie Portman in the movies.
Mm-hmm.
So from what I've been able to gather, about 20 years ago or so, in the early 2000s, there was a storyline in the Marvel comics where Thor, Odin's son, let's call him OG Thor, he lost the power to wield Mjolnir, the hammer. And I don't have the details on what happened there. I didn't look that up because that's not Shethor. But he lost the power. The Mjolnir was stuck on the moon of Earth, and it was calling out to Jane telepathically. So Jane called Heimdall and asked Heimdall to take her through the Bifrost to the moon. And I'm assuming that part, I didn't check about the Bifrost, but I'm assuming that's how Heimdall transports pretty well everybody. So he took her to the moon, and she was able to wield Mjolnir and became a female Thor. So her identity remained very secret. Very few people knew that Jane Foster was Thor. But what's interesting about the storyline is that Jane Foster also had breast cancer. And she was undergoing treatment for breast cancer at the time that she became Thor. And every time she picked up Mjolnir to turn into Thor, all the toxins in her body would be expelled. So all the chemotherapy drugs that were there to kill the cancer would be expelled from her body. And then when she became, Jane Foster again, her cancer would progress. And she eventually ended up, very, very sick, and some smart person in the MCU, I don't remember who it was, found out that, they said, if you turn into Thor one more time, you will die. So she wasn't going to do it. But then you know what happens in the comics, Kim.
Everybody dies?
Something happens, and you have to become Thor, right? Some horrible thing happens, and you have to, sacrifice yourself for the greater good, right? The good
Right. Save everybody.
Yeah. Better than the good of the one. That's a Star Trek reference, and I totally butchered that. But anyway, so with that said, regular Thor was able to, take her to Asgard, and him and Odin were able to revive her, and she didn't become Thor anymore. So that's sort of the most typical version of female Thor that I've been able to find. So it seems like an interesting storyline. It looks like something that I might be interested in reading if I could track it down. And I'm sure that it's probably going to be pretty popular because, as you may have heard, Natalie Portman will be reprising her role as Jane Foster and becoming Thor in the upcoming Thor: Love and Thunder.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, according to the internet. So that is, in a nutshell, the primary female Thor that I was able to find. There's 2 other versions of Thor that I was able to find that are female that connect to Dice Masters cards. There's one that is a Natalia Romanoff, aka the Black Widow. She's from Earth 23223. And then there is a Earth X Thor, which from my limited research appears to be OG Thor that was turned into a female by Odin in order to teach him a lesson at Loki's request. It looks like a fairly dated storyline. I did get a timeline on it, but there was something about becoming the weaker sex and seeing what life would be like as a
comic books.
But again, I haven't read it, so maybe it was done well. I'm not sure. I just have the Marvel Phantom Wikipedia entry to reference by. So there is an Earth X Thor in the Mighty Thor set. So those are kind of the versions of Thor. So let's maybe talk a little bit about the Dice Masters. So first off, I would say she's in Thor. I'm sure that surprises no one that female Thor is in the Mighty Thor. And she's also in there as Jane Foster. Okay, yes. And that's the most recent female versions of Thor that are available. There's 3 Jane Fosters, there's 3 Thors that are female, and then there's an Earth X Thor in that set. So do you want to start there, Kim, and work our way backwards?
With Jane Foster.
Sure.
And she's the only one ever turns up. This is the only Jane Foster that turns up in any of the sets.
That's right, Jane Foster. So there are 3 rarities of Jane, and all 3 of them she's an ally. Common, uncommon, and rare. And all 3 of them she's a 2-cost shield. And all of them, as you might suspect, as someone who is an ally of Thor or a sidekick of Thor in the comic books, all of her abilities have to do with Thor or immortal.
Which immortal is kind of confusing.
Yeah, so
I never really played it.
Well, immortal is very interesting, but the way it was interpreted, it became very, let's call it, overpowered. So I'm just going to pull up exactly what the keywords page says about immortal, just to make sure that I read it correctly, because it was changed from the initial text that came out with the Mighty Thor set. It was sort of errated. So immortal says, when a character die with immortal would go to the use pile, and then it specifically gave examples of how that would happen. Not being fielded at the end of the main step, attacking and being unblocked, or being sacrificed. Instead, add that character die to its owner's bag. So instead of going to the use pile, it will go to its bag. And that was the initial interpretation of immortal, and it kind of ended there. So then people were like, well, if this character die has immortal, if I spend it as energy, it can go to my bag. And they realized that that was just super broken. So it was then added to say, character dice with immortal that went out of play this turn go to the bag at the end of the turn instead of the use pile. And then they added this line: this does not apply to dice initially being purchased, being swapped, or being spent as energy. So basically, the immortal character die has to be on a character face for the immortal to trigger. It's not a function of the die, it's on the function of the character.
Got it. Think so.
So, 3 Jane Fosters.
Yes.
I've seen all of them in play in Thor drafts or whatever, because a lot of the characters in the Thor set are very expensive. So the common one lets you field a Thor character die from your use pile for free on the same level as Jane Foster when she's KO'd. So that's pretty good because fielding costs on Thors can be expensive. Whereas the fielding cost on Jane Foster is 0 all the way across the board.
Yeah.
Her uncommon is when she's active, your character dice with immortal as a keyword have a fielding cost of 0. So that's pretty cool because if the character die has immortal, and again, they're typically higher cost and have some expensive fielding costs, you get to field them for free. The fielding cost is 0. And then the rare, I think, is the one I saw the most often, which is when she's active, your character dice with immortal costs 2 less to purchase, minimum 1.
Discount, yeah.
Yeah, so you throw her in the field because a lot of the immortal character dice were quite expensive, 5, 6, 7 cost. So I think as an ally, she's pretty cool. Her subtitles also sort of tie into the story we just learned. So first off, she has hospital romance, and there's talk in the story about her being in the hospital and falling in love with somebody else in the hospital, and she's got the breast cancer and things like that. Plus she's a doctor. There's survivor because we know she's got breast cancer, and then there's also for goddess shalt thou be, which is sort of a precursor to her becoming Thor herself.
That's neat that I kind of did that. I never really looked at that until you told the story.
Well, I think that's the thing, right? When you don't have the context of the comics in the way that you and I don't necessarily, Kim, we don't always key into these things. But I think if someone who was a regular reader of Marvel Comics who knows about, Jane Foster as Thor, they would probably tap into that right away.
Yeah.
So that is Jane Foster.
Yep.
So do you want to move on to the Thor in that set?
Yeah, Thor Female in that set.
Yep.
So she had a common, and uncommon, and a super rare.
That's right.
So no rare for her in that set.
Yeah. And they all have the same global on them, which is pay a shield. Target attacking character die goes to the use pile if KO'd this turn. So that's interesting, because a lot of the times, you don't want to KO your opponent's stuff because it gives them ramp, right?
Yeah.
It gives them an opportunity to refield something that has a when fielded effect or whatever. So if you pay a shield, your attacking character die goes to the use pile. Or the other way you could interpret that, because it's only attacking character die, not blocking character die. If you pay that global on your character that has immortal, instead of being KO'd and going to the prep area, they go to your bag, right? Because if a character dies with immortal,
when it
would
goes
go to
to
your
the
use pile.
That's right, yeah.
So it kind of ties in to that whole immortal effect. So her 3 rarities are 6 and 7 cost. Her common is an immortal. She also has subtext. She can't be damaged by villain character dice or action dice. But I mean, 6 cost. She's 1, 2, 3 to field.
Expensive.
Her attack stats are 4, 5, 6. Her defense stats are 5, 6, 8. So it's expensive, right? Yeah. And I think that's why you don't see a lot of these kicking around.
Yeah, in play. Yep.
Yeah. Her uncommon says when Thor attacks, when she KOs an opposing character die with combat damage, gain 2 life. But that's a 7 cost.
Yeah, 7 cost to gain life. That seems a stretch.
Yeah, she's got to attack and she's got to KO an opposing character die with combat damage. So that's a pretty tall order. And then the super rare says when Thor attacks, until end of turn, prevent the first 2 damage to each of your other attacking character dice. So that's kind of cool. If you get her out there and she's attacking, then all of your other character dice, the first 2 damage to them is reduced. So maybe they won't die, but your opponent's character dice might die.
Yeah, that's not bad. It's a 6 cost, not bad.
6 cost, super rare. So, I'm not really sure which of those is the best one. I think it probably depends on your team. But I think if you're building around Immortal, the common is probably a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
With the Immortal, she can't be damaged by villains or actions. And she's got the global that she can, take KOing, attacking Immortal dice and put them in the use pile instead of the prep area.
I mean, if I was to play with her, it'd probably be more for her global.
Mm-hmm.
And really buying her and actually using her ability.
Yeah. But it's expensive. You got to plan for it.
Yep. She's an Avenger.
She is an Avenger.
Yep.
And that's where I think Jane Foster comes into play.
Yeah. Well, Jane Foster didn't actually have an affiliation. She was blank, like no affiliation.
No, but she has the Immortal text, right? So for the common, at least, you could make the common, instead of being a 6 cost, a 4.
Yeah.
Because Jane Foster reduces the cost of character dice with Immortal by 2. And that also would field it for free. So that would be a good one to tie in there. So then the other one in that set, in the Mighty Thor set, is the Earth X Thor. She Be Worthy. And this is a unique die with a max 1. The stats are a little different on this one. It's a 1/2/2 to field with a 4/5/6, both attack and defense. So 4/4/5/5/6/6. And she says, when fielded, if you have less life than an opponent, KO target character die. And when fielded, KO target villain character die. So when she fields, she has 2 effects. So I know Kim would like to pair that with an Absorbing Man.
Yep, I do love doubling up when fielded.
She also has Underdog. When fielded, KO target character die with a fielding cost of 0. So Underdog happens when you have less characters in your field than your opponent.
Yep.
So when you field her, you get the opportunity to KO any character die you want, as long as you have less life than your opponent. You also get to KO a villain. And then finally, if you have less characters in the field than your opponent, when you field her, you also get to KO something with a fielding cost of 0. So you can pretty well do some field clearing with her. She's a 5-cost bolt. I think she's probably the best of the ones we've just talked about.
Yeah, that's not actually a bad 5 for that ability. It's not bad. I mean, you can even pair it with a global that makes something a villain if you want to just KO something. So.
Yeah, and unfortunately, she doesn't have any affiliation. And with the defense stats of 4/5/6, she might be hard to cycle, but in current modern, you could just Nihilware her, so you can repeat the effect, right?
Yeah.
I'd also call out that those effects are not optional, and they don't talk about opposing dice. So if, for example, you're Underdog and you field her and your opponent doesn't have a character die in the field with a fielding cost of 0 and you do, your character die is going to be KO'd, right?
Yeah, because it doesn't say May.
No, it doesn't say May, and it doesn't say opposing.
Yeah.
So, okay, so that is the Mighty Thor set. Now, she also appeared, and her first appearance would have been, in the Age of Ultron set. Yes, and there's 4 Thor in that set for female Thor. They're all commons, so that's kind of weird.
Was that part of the starter?
Well, not all of them would have been. But anyway, maybe, I don't know. But the reason I'm jumping back to Age of Ultron is because that's her first appearance, and also the stats on her Age of Ultron are exactly the same as her Mighty Thor stats. Yeah. It's the same image, it's the same stats, it's just a different colored die. Okay. So, Kim, do you want to go over those?
Yeah.
Maybe start with Not Who You Expected.
Yep, so there's 4 commons. So Not You Expected is not exactly expected because her card's blank.
Glad you would like that one.
She might be a good one for, like Orbital Strike, right? Just blank card, like stats. But 5 cost is expensive for nothing. Then her other one is Goddess of Thunder, which is a 6 cost, and every time Thor takes damage, reduce that damage by 1.
Interesting.
And her other one is Worthy, which is also a 6 cost. And it is Thor can't be targeted by opposing action dice that would target one character.
So that wording's a little weird, but Age of Ultron was pretty early on.
Let me just click on the card to make sure. Thor cannot be targeted by opposing action dice that would target one character.
So I'm thinking like, what is something that would target one character that's an action die? Magic Missile. Right? Magic Missile, you play the action, you deal 2 damage to target character die. It's just 1 die, you can't do it. I don't know that's worth 6 though.
No. These abilities doesn't sound very thrilling, but her last one is Thunderer, and that's a 7 cost, and it's prevent all non-combat damage to Thor.
Interesting. So combat damage is okay, but non-combat damage isn't. I don't know that I would spend 7 for that, or even how I would get to a 7 cost. So they're kind of eh.
Yeah. All those abilities are kind of eh.
If you had to pick one, which one would you pick?
The blank one.
Because it's a 5 cost and you can put it on your orbital strike team.
Which I would probably never buy because it's a 5 cost.
Oh, there's ways to get it cheaper.
Yeah. There used to be a way. I'm just curious now because of it being a 4 common card. If I do this by starter, if I filter this by starter, you get only the 3. So not who you expected. Yeah, Goddess of Thunder and Worthy would come from the starter set. But then her 7 cost one is not under that, so that one would have come in the packs. But it's odd because she doesn't have an uncommon and a rare or super rare.
Interesting.
Which is odd. So I don't know how
they
Age
did
of
weird
Ultron
things
worked
back then.
Yeah, I don't really own much from there, and I don't know.
They do weird things now. So, right, like for a while there, you had, like, if you look at the Mighty Thor, you had a common, uncommon, and a super rare, so there wasn't a rare. But then you look at what they did at Infinity Gauntlet, and you have common, uncommon, rare, and super rare. So, anyway, the interesting note is that the 5 cost is probably the best of those because it's a 5 cost.
And a blank ability. Sure. Put her up for stats.
Yeah. Also Avenger affiliated.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we have the Civil War set, which is the last set in which Thor appeared as a female of the 3. And there's a common, uncommon, and a rare, and then there's a super rare. So, but it's a little different. So the common is Thor Boom. She's a 6 cost bolt. So up until this point, we've only talked about her as a shield, except for the Earth X Thor, right?
Which was a bolt.
That's right. So in Civil War, she's a bolt, and her stats and die are the same as Thor from Infinity Gauntlet or Ragnarok from the Mighty Thor set. So she's a 153, 164, 276 in that set. So a little bit different. So Thor Boom is an Avenger as well and has Intimidate. So a 6 cost Intimidate with no other effects.
Kind of expensive.
Yeah, considering I can get a Gazer for 2 and Trouble in Waterdeep and intimidate away. So it's kind of a yeah. The uncommon is Thor. There must always be a Thor. So again, this kind of ties into that storyline we talked about. Like there has to be a Thor, and the hammer called out to Jane, and she went to the moon and picked it up. And that says, when fielded, characters with resistance and or enlistment can't block until end of turn. So those are keywords that were out in some sets there. So enlistment says, enlistment lets you get extra effects unless your opponent KOs one of their character dice. And then, what was the other one?
Resistance.
Resistance. That's also a KOing thing, I think.
Yeah, same thing. Effects that let you get extra effects if one of your character dice is KO'd this turn. So what's the difference?
I don't know. Different sets. Enlistment came out in Marvel Dice Masters 5. Resistance came out in same one. They both came in the same set. So resistance effects let you get extra effects if one of your character dice was KO'd this turn. And
I think one is so enlistment is when your opponent KOs one of your character dice.
Your opponent
right.
has to KO.
And resistance is if one of your character dice was KO'd this turn. So either or, go. I guess. Yeah. So that's the difference. Yep. There we go.
Okay. There we go. We got it sorted. Good teamwork, Kim.
We
clearly
just have to
these are keywords we've played a lot with, right?
Yeah.
So characters with resistance or enlistment can't block until the end of turn. So again, that also is yours as well as your opponent's. So depending on your team, could be potentially a problem. That's also a 6-cost Avenger. And then the third one is the rare. She's a 7-cost, strengthened by Mjolnir. 7-cost Bolt Avenger. When fielded Thor dice you fielded this turn cannot be KO'd until end of turn. So I guess they can't be preemptively KO'd like in the main step. Or even in the attack step, it would be until the end of turn. So
that could be actually any Thor because... Oh, no, because you only have one Thor name on the team, so...
You can only have one Thor name, and because she is just Thor, as is Mjolnir, the only Thor.
Yeah. So still very expensive for what they are, but maybe back then in the Golden Age time, things were just expensive and...
Well, in the age of Professor X Global, OG Professor X Global, it was easy to get lots of energy, right?
Right.
Okay, and then do you want to take the super rare?
Yes, because it's my favorite card.
Do you have this one?
It's coming to me.
That's awesome.
Which reminds me, I gotta check my mail. So this one is Natalia Romanova. Romanova?
Romanova?
I have no idea.
It says Romanova, so.
Yeah, but I don't think that's how she pronounces it.
I think it's because she's from a different Earth, Kim.
No, true. So this is Black Widow and Thor of Earth 23-22-3. 7-cost Avengers affiliation, a super rare that also came from the Civil War set. So when Natalia Romanova attacks, deal 4 damage to the defending player.
Well, that's pretty cool.
I know, you just keep attacking with her as long as she doesn't get KO'd, which her stats are 044, 155, 266, so a little hard to KO.
Mm-hmm.
Can be done, though, if you have a beefy person.
Yeah, and her stats are very similar to the Earth X Thor, but the Earth X Thor costs 1 to field on level 1.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So 7 costs, you can get to that, because her ability is
pretty good.
Keep attacking, 4 damage. How long is it going to take you, right? Not very long. So I would say that's worth it for a 7 cost to get to.
Yeah, so...
It's a good card.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I haven't seen a lot of these played really at all. Even when I was at Worlds and I was doing Thor drafts, I don't really remember anyone playing these cards. But if I had to pick some that I was going to play with, definitely the Earth X Thor and the Natalia Romanova Thor are the two that I would go to first. And then I might want to play around with Immortal and that global pay a shield target attacking character die goes to the use pile of KO this turn.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Earth X Thor, it's an interesting one. And Natalia, I only ever played it really maybe once. Never played Earth X. I don't own it. And yeah, I don't know if I'll play any of the others, but yeah, I would agree with you. If I was going to put a Thor on the team just for her global, would have been pay the shield one. But other than that, yeah. I mean, she's okay abilities. It's not something everybody will go to, and she's very high cost as well.
Yeah, she's expensive.
Yeah.
So, I think the Jane Foster works well with the Immortal keyword. There's some stuff that you can play with there. But overall, I think there's a reason that you and I haven't seen a lot of this Thor being played.
Yeah.
Which is a shame.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been just because of her abilities. Nobody's reaching for it, right? As they would reach for Natalia, just because of that's a crazy ability.
Yeah. I mean, there's good stats, so it's just expensive to get to. You got to be able to ramp up to it, and I think there's probably better things you can do with your energy.
I mean, unless you're playing an Immortal team as well, maybe you might reach for Warrior Spirit, but again, maybe there's cheaper Immortals out there. Who knows, right? So,
well, the Immortals are all kind of expensive, but
they're all over so.
Yeah, but
I do like the art on the Civil War set, though.
Yeah,
I think if I was going at art, it would be Civil War set. I like how that looks.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The Civil War set is my favorite art. The Age of Ultron art is it's okay. The Mighty Thor set is similarly okay. The Earth X Thor, it's a little busy when you look at that one.
Yeah,
and
it's shiny too, and it's hard to kind of
yeah. And the Natalia Romanova art is a little, again, not really the greatest thing in my personal opinion.
Almost looks like She-Ra.
kind of does. So we would encourage you to head over to tv.dicecoalition.com and search on Thor, and under the gender section you can choose the little female icon to just focus on the female Thors that are out there and take a look at those. And we would love to hear from you about what you've done with female Thor characters in your games. Have you ever put one of them on a team? Have you ever built a team around them? Or like us, are you kind of on them except for some of these unique super rares that are kind of interesting? And what have you done with those? Have you done something interesting? Did we completely mess up the story of Jane Foster and Thor and other stuff? Please let us know.
Yeah. The storyline is really cool, actually. I like that storyline. I wonder if they actually made a comic book based on Jane Foster. Do you know?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah,
that's where that storyline came from.
Oh, okay. Is it actually called Thor?
Good question. I don't know. I don't know if it tells me the name of the storyline when she became Thor. Becoming Thor. No, it doesn't mention it here. It's probably somewhere. I just don't know exactly where to find it. So, cool. Oh, here we go. So you've got Thor, God of Thunder, which is number 25. And that came out in September of 2014. So some references there. So that's kind of, I guess, Thor, God of Thunder. And that kind of ties into the name of the movie, right? Love and Thunder.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So that is
Thor. Female Thor.
If you have a suggestion of what female character you'd like us to cover next, you can certainly reach out to us and we'll go over all of the different places that you can find us at the end of the episode.
Yeah. So shall we go to Dice Bag, or do you want to go to what's coming up?
Let's do Dice Masters.
Okay. So Dice Fight XL is going to be happening on Saturday, August 14th. James put it up on the website today, I think.
Today is the date of recording?
Yes, the day of recording. I always feel like we're like live. I don't know why. So if you go to dmunited.eu, there is a page there for Dice Fight XL, again happening on August 14th, and it's actually starting at 10 a.m. Eastern time.
That's really early if you're on the West Coast.
Yeah, because I think they're starting at 4 o'clock Slovakia time, which is 6 hours ahead of us.
Yeah. So that would be 7 a.m. if you're Pacific time.
Yeah. So yeah, all the information is on there. I believe it is modern, and you're allowed to have up to 2 proxies from the upcoming Dark Phoenix set into your team.
Based on the spoilers that we've seen so far.
Yep. So it's a red event. So it's very competitive level. So bring your best team. Try to kill in not kill, I shouldn't say that. Try to win in 3-4 turns, I guess. I don't even know if that's possible in Modern now, but.
I think it is, but you need perfect rules. So.
But yeah, go to their website, check it out. So that's happening soon. Yeah, next week. The time
this week,
recording.
this week is as per the time that this episode comes out, this coming Saturday.
And yeah, all the spoiler cards are up there on their site too, so you can take a look at the Dark Phoenix stuff. And we have Dice Social happening this month as well in August, and we've set that date for the 28th, but we have not decided our theme yet.
Yep, so theme to be confirmed, details to follow.
So it'll be up on the website.
Yeah, soon. Which
Jocelyn will get to. But yeah, so that's the date. So, but we haven't planned our theme yet. And then the weekly events happening. You got weekly Dice Arena happening on Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern on Twitch at Final Ross Battle. And we also have Dice Fight that happens on Thursdays at 4 o'clock Eastern time. You can check out the channels in the Discord for the Dice Masters, and we'll pin that one again too for
excellent
folks out there.
Yep.
And that's what's coming up in the playing world.
Yeah, and I haven't heard if Jordo and CCM are going to start Team of the Month again yet, because we've been pushing them to do that, seeing as we keep getting all these weird and wacky format ideas. So let's poke that bear again.
So we're poking at you, bears.
Remember Facebook used to have that poke feature?
Really? I didn't know that.
You could poke people with Facebook. It was weird.
I drank okay, side note. So I drank a apple cider, and it was called Don't Poke the Bear.
Yeah, that's a brand. They do wine too.
I did not know that, but it was a cute little can. I'm like, what? This is called Don't Poke the Bear?
I think it's local, Ontario.
Oh, maybe. It was a little sweeter for me, but it wasn't too bad. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Side note.
Cool.
And then we got the dice bag, which we only had, I believe, one comment.
Yeah, it was a little late this week, but that's okay. We heard from everyone's fave hero, Donnie. So he brought a couple of things up from our last episode. So first off, we were talking with Kim about, he had suggested something called DaVinci for video editing. Is that right, Kim?
Yes.
So he said he's not a pro on DaVinci by any means, but he can sure try to help you out, Kim. He's willing to give it a shot. Then Kim's not sold. Kim doesn't want to edit videos. I don't blame her.
I don't know.
Editing is for people that have more time than we do. So then he jumped into the content of the last episode. So in the last episode, we talked about team building and different things we were doing. We talked about our switcheroo teams that we built in episode 37, and how we might change those, and more information will come on that soon, because we're gonna do some more info on that. So he said he likes the idea of a different team that Joss and Kim and would build to play against each other. So we talked about building a team that we would play ourselves, and then giving it to the other person to play to see how it goes, and then to swap and play it ourselves as well. So see, if I built a team that is not necessarily Kim's play style, she built one that's not mine, play it against each other, see what happens, and then swap back and play the team we're more comfortable with, the style we're comfortable with, and see what happens if there's any differences there. So that's kind of an interesting thing. He said he's excited to see what the double switcheroo holds. So, date to be confirmed, but we will get it out there into the social media land to let everyone know when we're going to play our next switcheroo team, where we said we can switch up to 4 more cards from the team we built, and then see what we do with that. And then he said we've talked about doing a team build and swapping in our local group, and he thinks it would be fun. So I agree. I think you just got to set the right expectation for that, right, Kim? Like we've talked about it before. You don't want to just have somebody build a trashy team that they think they can defeat.
Right. Yeah.
Or a team that's like too expensive or has no ramp. Like you've got to come into it with,
build
this
it
is
like
the team
how
that
you
I
would
want to
build
play.
Yeah.
And then I'm willing to give it to someone else to give it a shot. So.
Oh, I have my teams built for you and ready to go.
You are ahead of me for that.
Yes, I was in a building mood because I have to build for WDA, and then I was like, not when that was done, I was like, oh, let me build this team, and then I'll build my switcheroo team, and then What else can I build?
Marginally more interested in building right now. So I've been kind of off team building because I build better when I'm collaborating with someone. So when Rob and I are bouncing ideas off each other, or when you and I are bouncing ideas off each other, Kim, I build better that way. But Rob and I have been doing over on Dice Station Zebra, we've been doing our DC campaign, which those episodes have started to go out today, actually, the day of recording. The first one went out was the Dice Masters DC campaign game 1. Prior to that, we did the Marvel campaign that Rob ran, and we also did some probability control stuff where we tried to bring this concept of probability control from HeroClix into Dice Masters. So I've been doing a little bit more building, and I've been playing a little bit more with some cards that I haven't touched in a while, and a little bit more modern-y type things, and my brain has started to spark a few ideas of things I'd like to do. So that will, I think, help, bode well as I have some teams to build to play against you, Kim.
I'm ready. I'm ready for it.
Well, it'll be a little while yet because I'm going away next week for a short little local holiday. So do have some plans to get some Dice Masters in person real. For reals.
For realsies.
Our IRL. So maybe we can talk about that in the next episode.
And that's all we had in the dice bag.
That's it. Yep, that's all we had. That's all she wrote. It's all he wrote. It's all anyone wrote. So the other thing we should say, Kim, just to wrap things up, is that last week's Dice Social had how many people? 10?
8? Wait.
8.
8?
8 plus you and I.
Yes, I don't play. So 8?
Yeah. So yeah, we didn't play because we had an even number. Have a team, and we had an even number. So, and as a result, I didn't play, and we just kind of hung out and watched and chit chatted. But we had 8 players, which was fantastic. I think it was our best turnout ever.
And 3 new folks.
Yeah.
1 returning. Matt, I think he's played earlier when we started Dice Social, so it was nice to see him come back.
Yeah, and some of the regulars.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was great to see people coming out and playing in Dice Social, and I'm glad it worked out for folks, and it seemed like it was a fun theme. The theme for that one was up, and away, so all of the characters on your team had to be able to fly with either an implement or have the ability of flight. So that was really cool. We saw some consistent stuff, but we also saw some very interesting different things as well, and that was a lot of fun. So it was great to see so many people coming out and playing and participating. So, hopefully we will see a similar turnout when we get to the end of August.
It's nice to see people come out in the summertime, right? Because usually summertime is so busy. But, yeah, it's nice to see people
especially right now as restrictions have started to open up in places and people can actually do stuff that they couldn't do before. So it was still great to see people coming out. So it's awesome. You're all awesome people.
Everything is awesome.
Everything is awesome.
Which is funny because my son started singing it the other day, actually.
Did he?
Just
completely unsolicited?
Just out of the blue.
Nice.
I was like, oh, that's awesome, Noah. And he's like, everything is awesome. And he started singing it. I was like,
he's a boy after my heart, Kim.
You're so cute.
Okay, I think that's all we got. I think we're off track and all that fun stuff. So with that said, I think we should wrap things up. What do you say?
Let's do it.
Okay, so if you would like to leave us feedback, because we would love to hear from you, and if you don't want us to read it on the podcast, just let us know. Just put in there, please don't read on the podcast, but I wanted to tell you X, Y, Z. That's cool too. So you can reach us in a bunch of different places. You can leave us a note on dm-north.com where we put our podcast listing up every 2 weeks. You can find us on all the social medias, which include the Facebook and the Instagram at dmNorthTV. You can find us on Twitch at twitch.tv/dmNorthTV. All of our videos are up on YouTube at dmNorthTV. And then finally, you can send us a podcast. You can send us a podcast at...
Send us a podcast, yes.
Please do. We love recommendations. But you can send us an email at Triple D Podcast at dm-north.com. You can also reach out to us via Discord. You can at Kim at Super K, and you can at me at JoceStitch, JOCE Stitch. And if you have not blinged out your dice game yet with your very own custom dice bag, please consider ordering one from my Etsy store, etsy.com/shop/JoceStitch, where you can get your very own dice bag, completely unique to you, because you get to choose the outside color, the inside color, and all those fun things. So some really great fabrics up there. And I think that's all we got. So until next time, on a double on dice.
Double and dice are really nice. They are part of DM North. Even though they get cold, they still roll every month at the Dice Social. There ain't nothing online that's as good a time as losing life to an orbital strike. If they use Becky Lynch, it'll be a cinch, because, oh, hey, it's just for the global. I promise, it's just for the global. I won't buy it.